In an increasingly interconnected world, you're going to have to interact with someone of a different religion at some point, so you might as well learn how to relate to them without compromising your own beliefs. Or maybe you've decided to make friends with or date someone of another religion. Either way, today's video, 9 Tips for Interreligious Dialogue, is more relevant and useful today than ever before, so don't click away. If you're new to my channel, consider checking out more content and getting even more by clicking the subscribe button and bell icon. As this video and my channel title reflect, my channel is all about the diversity of religion and spirituality all around the world. Tip number 1. Learn about the other person's religion beforehand. If you want to make interreligious dialogue awkward, just come up with your own assumptions about the other person's religion. But if you really want to have a good, fruitful conversation based on understanding and effort to relate, actually learn about the other person's religion. It doesn't have to be an extensive study. Part of the reason you're having this conversation in the first place is so that you can learn about each other's respective religions. But the interreligious dialogue will be a much better experience for both parties involved if you get yourself a basic understanding of their religion. Try watching some YouTube videos like the ones I post here at A World of Spirituality, and with mine in particular, subscribe so that you have access to a whole library to prepare you for interreligious dialogue. Literal libraries also have plenty of books all about different religions that you could try reading before you have an interreligious conversation. Tip number 2 is to be aware of your own unconscious biases. The most dangerous assumption you can make here is that you don't have any biases or prejudices about the faith of the person you are going to have interreligious dialogue with. No decent person would actively, consciously put someone of another religion on a lower pedestal. Nonetheless, it's what we've all been conditioned to do. We just do it without thinking about or realizing it, and that's the scary part. Even if and when you learn about the other person's religion, as I told you to in the last part, you're still inevitably going to have preconceived notions about the other person's religion. Certain things are going to come to your mind when you think of, and even as you two talk about the religion, that either aren't true or don't even come close to being that religion's entire identity. Before having the conversation, spend some time alone in your room and ask yourself, what preconceived notions do I have about this religion, and what are they based on? Both fortunately and unfortunately, it's through having this interreligious conversation that you might just realize what your preconceived notions were all along. Tip number 3, it's not a debate over who's right. Inevitably, your faith and the other person's are going to teach some things that contradict each other. If you agreed on everything, you would practice the same religion. It's going to take a lot of mental gymnastics to have your religion and the other person's both be right at the same time. But that's not what you're trying to do when you have interreligious dialogue. It's not a debate with the end goal of concluding that one person is right and the other is wrong. What you're trying to do is bridge the religious gap that divides you and bond over the similarities and differences between your respective faiths. When you get to talking about those points of contradiction between your faiths, don't try to explain why your religion is right about that and the other person's is wrong. That's beside the point of interreligious dialogue. At the same time, don't beat around the bush and try to avoid talking about the differences between your faiths, because this is the best opportunity for growth and bonding between you two. Tip number 4, don't try to convert them and don't accuse them of trying to convert you. Whatever you do, do not enter into an interreligious dialogue with the goal of converting the other person to your religion. That's not what interreligious dialogue is all about. It's about bridging the gaps that divide people of different religions and learning how to coexist. If you go in trying to convert the other person, not only will you elicit resentment by coming off as arrogant and condescending, but it will be the opposite of effective. On the opposite end, it's also up to you to trust that the other person has the right goal for this interreligious dialogue. If you go in overly suspicious that they're trying to convert you, that's going to make for a rough, fruitless conversation. Tip number 5, use I statements. Simply put, your primary role in interreligious dialogue should be to explain your faith, what you believe, and what it has to do with what the other person is saying. And the other person will do the same in regards to their faith. More generally speaking, try to stick to mostly using first-person pronouns like I, me, and my. For example, in my religion, or I believe this, or here's where my faith is similar or different. The only time you should ever use you or your is when asking a genuine question. For example, what does your religion teach about blank? Steer clear of statements like, I heard that in your religion, you do this. Tip number 6, try to find some common ground. Interreligious dialogue is about meeting the other person where they are. Like I said earlier, the reason you practice different religions in the first place is because you have some clear differences. But it's just as inevitable that there are going to be some things you agree on. Dedicate the early stages of your interreligious dialogue to this. In fact, if you're taking my advice from section 1 and doing research on the other person's religion before the conversation, that would be a good time to find something that faith has in common with yours. Make that thing the starting point of your conversation. It's not that you should avoid talking about your differences altogether, but emphasizing that you guys have some similarities will make for a really good conversation and help it achieve its goal of helping you coexist while having different beliefs. Tip number 7, don't discuss the controversial aspects of your respective faiths until you're ready. I know I've said twice in this video that you shouldn't avoid discussing differences in your faiths and that it can make the dialogue more fruitful. But that doesn't mean you should dive head first by getting right into your major points of contradiction. And you especially don't want to start by discussing differences relating to controversial issues such as women's ordination, birth control, abortion, same-sex marriage, and transgenderism. Take my last advice and start by meeting the other person where they are and discussing your similarities first. Once you hit it off by doing that, then start to take it to the next level by discussing your difference civilly and maybe even eventually crossing into the more controversial territory. Tip number 8, neither of you speaks on behalf of your entire faith. When you have interreligious dialogue with someone, you are meeting one adherent to that faith and one approach to it. Quite likely, they belong to a particular sect or denomination of their religion. Make sure to find out which one so you don't fall into the trap of assuming that what they say in that conversation represents the entire religion. Even within a given sect or denomination, the person you're conversing with represents only one perspective of that sect or denomination. Even if you meet someone of that same sect of their religion, never assume that what one person expressed to be true for them will be true for another. Another thing you can do on your end is remember that when sharing about your own faith, you're sharing your own perspective of it and no other adherents. Make sure to distinguish that which is true of your faith as a whole to that which is unique to your own experience of believing in and practicing both that religion as a whole and your particular sect or denomination. Last but not least, Be civil, but don't undermine your own religious beliefs and traditions. No matter how much you want the conversation to go as smoothly as possible, it's important that both parties give the whole truth about their faith, especially when it gets to that point like I mentioned in Section 7. Like I said, beating around the bush and trying to avoid this isn't helpful. If a difference or controversy comes up, be honest about what your religion teaches. To do otherwise is to misrepresent your own religion and betray your own beliefs and traditions. That's not what interreligious dialogue is all about. Also expect that it's going to go both ways and that the other person is going to be brutally honest about what their religion teaches. Be prepared to listen to what they have to say about their differences and more controversial stuff with maturity and a flexible perspective. Just like your religious convictions are first and foremost to you, so are the other person's to them. Now, do you feel more ready to have interreligious dialogue? Let me know in the comments. I meant what I said earlier about my channel being a good place to learn about various religions and spiritualities, so you'll be prepared to have interreligious dialogue with people who practice them. But it's also just the perfect place for anyone who finds it interesting that the world has so many different religions and spiritualities and wants to learn more about all of them. If that's you, subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon, and also check out this video on things that generally set Eastern religions apart from Western religions, and also this one breaking down the major symbols that come to mind when we think of each of the world's religions.